Weilà, raga, how's it going, everybody? Welcome to another lesson in our Zero to Hero Italian grammar series, where we're looking at Italian from the ground up, from the most basic to the most advanced topics. Today, we're finally entering the more advanced topic section in this series. We're going to be covering the congiuntivo. Let's go straight to the digital whiteboard, and we're going to explain everything as we go on. So, congiuntivo. If you've been around Italian for a while, you've definitely heard of this. And so today we're going to try to make some sense of it. I do think, though, what will be necessary is once we go over these basi, these sort of the basics of the congiuntivo, I think we're going to do more videos getting into the nitty-gritty. So today we're just going to cover it from more of the high level, right to the point. Let's get at the core of this concept. And then later on, for those of you that are interested, you can feel free to get deeper and deeper. I love getting deeper and deeper with this because this is some good stuff right here. Anyway, what does congiuntivo even mean? So the congiuntivo is what we refer to as a verb mood. So I spelled that wrong. Let's go congiuntivo. This is one of the verb moods in Italian. We have a few different verb moods, but let's talk about this first one here and then we'll backtrack for a moment. It's a verb mood used to express often things like doubt, desire, a wish. It could be personal opinions. And let's add in a few more. We could also do feelings. And the biggie is, I also want to do uncertainty. There's a lot. Uncertainty. And then, what was the biggie? Hypothesis. Ecco. Okay, hypothesis. Wonderful. So it's used when we're talking about all these sorts of things. They're all very much related, okay? If you're talking about an opinion or a feeling, those can be related. A desire and a wish, those are related as well. Uncertainty or hypothesis. Maybe we're talking about something that could happen. We're not too sure yet, but we're thinking what it will end up like. That's why we use the congiuntivo. That's what the congiuntivo refers to when we're making statements like this. Now, why did I say that this is what we call a verb mood? This is really the first point in time in one's Italian learning journey where making the distinction between a tense and a mood and the indicativo and congiuntivo is necessary. So, let me explain what a lot of that means. I'm throwing a lot of terms at you, okay? So the indicativo is basically what we've been covering thus far. It's when we're talking about, for example, just the standard present tense, right? Where we're talking about facts. It's the standard imperfetto when we're talking just about a habitual past action, and so on. We're just stating the facts. You could think of it as being like that, stating the facts or the obvious. This is a very reduced, simple, we're not getting into anything particularly deep here, okay? So the indicativo refers to that. The congiuntivo refers to all of these things that we were mentioning here. So that's a very simple, basic difference between congiuntivo and imperfetto. Sorry, congiuntivo and indicativo. Another thing I'll mention about the indicativo, it looks like the word indicate in English. We're just indicating something. The congiuntivo is called the subjunctive in English. So congiuntivo, I believe the indicativo is called the indicative in English. The congiuntivo is called subjunctive. Now, the reason why I'm pointing this out is because subjunctive looks like it has the word subjective in it. You could see a similar kind of theme here. So think about that. Think about congiuntivo is subjunctive, therefore subjective. This is just some background kind of let this stuff sort of sit in the back of your mind. And when you hear the word indicativo, think obviously indicative. But what does indicative mean? Indicate. You're just indicating something. You're stating the obvious, stating a fact. There's no particular emotion behind it. There's no air of doubt, uncertainty, personal feeling, hypothesis. But when you're in the subjective, now it's like, oh, things are going to depend. That's now getting a little bit more into the grammatical functional side of it, okay? So if none of this makes sense, you can feel free to just kind of throw it out the window. Or I would prefer just let it stay in the back of the mind, okay? You don't have to quite reach for it, but just we planted the seed. That's how I view it. So we've been doing everything in the indicative for the most part throughout our series here. We did touch on the condizionale, which is also a verb mood, the conditional, but primarily we were doing indicativo. Now we're doing congiuntivo. So the subjunctive, subjective things. Just kind of use that as a guide, okay? It's not a one-size-fits-all hard and fast rule. Just use it as a guide, okay? As like a bumper of sorts. Okay. So I do also want to make one last other grammar note, and then we'll get into the real core of this. I want to just tell you the difference between a tense and a mood. Now, I know I keep saying it. Forgive me for repeating myself over and over again. This is just high-level stuff, okay? So, a tense versus a mood. The very simple way of looking at it, this is the time in which something takes place. It's no surprise that that's why we call a tense tempo in Italian. A mood, I believe, is often referred to as a modo in Italian. I'm pretty sure we call it a modo, which I'll put over here. Il modo. I think it's called modo indicativo, I'm pretty sure, which is like saying mode. A mood is basically how. That's the main way that I want to distinguish for the purposes of our explanation here. Mood deals with how we're using a verb. The tense deals with when. It deals with the time. So we're going to be looking at the congiuntivo presente, which is very similar to the indicativo presente, which we did, I believe, in lesson 2. That was the indicative present. Now we're doing the congiuntivo presente. Let me show you just how similar they are, because we're dealing with the present tense once again, but with a little bit of a twist, okay? So let me show you this right here. If I said, il cielo è blu, that's one of the examples I remember I used at the very start of that lesson 2 in our series. Il cielo è blu. This means the sky is blue, right? The sky is blue. Now, obviously, we use this example because it's a very easy fact to remember and think about, right? The sky is blue. Okay, done. We indicated it. We also call the index finger, the first finger, an indice in Italian. And if you're pointing, it's indicare. Everything's related. Everything's related. Okay. Il cielo è blu. If I wanted to still use the present tense, but change the mood, change the modo, and talk about something that I'm not sure of, it would look like this. Penso che il cielo sia blu. I'm now saying sia. What does this sentence mean? I think that, and I'm putting it in parentheses because we don't always use it in English. I think that the sky is blue. Why am I saying is, which I've used in both examples here? It's is in English, but in Italian we have e and then we have sia. That's because sia is from the congiuntivo presente form of essere. This is when we're using a statement to talk about a personal opinion. Here, this is a doubt, a hypothesis, wishful thinking, all that kind of stuff. And we know that this is something that maybe I'm not sure about, or maybe there's some air of, uncertainty, doubt, which just means the same thing, because I'm saying penso che, I think. I think is not me just making a statement. It's me sharing, I'm not 100% sure, uncertainty. So when you begin the sentence like that, it's like a trigger. Think of it as a trigger phrase that, okay, the next verb that comes in the next half of the sentence, the main half of the sentence, needs to have a verb in this other verb mood called the congiuntivo. We're going to do a lot of examples. So let's just go straight into verb conjugations And we're just going to do a lot of examples, okay? As always, we're going to look first at avere and essere, our two fundamental verbs in the language. Avere, to have, essere, to be. We're now going to put it in the congiuntivo presente. So the conjugation is going to be a bit different from what you're used to seeing. So let's do avere. Okay, we have io abbia. So here it's going to look a whole lot like a verb tense. Tu abbia. Lui, lei, abbia. All the forms are the same. That pronoun is really helpful. Noi abbiamo. Just like we use in the indicativo, the noi form in the congiuntivo presente is always the same as the noi form in the indicativo presente. Voi abbiate, loro abbiano. And what is the meaning of this? I have, you have, he, she, it has, and so on. Same meaning as what we did in lesson 2. The mood is different, so it's used in a different context, but the meaning is technically the same. Let's put this in an example, shall we? If I said, penso che tu abbia molti amici. This means I think you have, or that you have, a lot of friends. I think you have a lot of friends. I just want to show you now the response you can give. Your response can be, è vero. Ho tanti amici. Okay. I did this on purpose. So, why? Okay. We began this sentence with penso che. Trigger phrase alert, trigger phrase alert. We're introducing uncertainty. We don't know if it's fact. The verb that comes next needs to be in the congiuntivo. The congiuntivo works with 4 tenses, the present, the past, the imperfect, and the pluperfect. We're going to get to all of them. How do I know I need the present version of the congiuntivo? Because I began the sentence with the present. So we like to do some verb tense balancing. Present, present. You can mix them, but sometimes it can sound wrong depending on how you're wording it. This is a great way to begin with wording something. I think you have a lot of friends. Penso che tu abbia molti amici. Can you just say penso che abbia molti amici? You can, but if it's not clear verbally or inferred in the context that you're referring to tu, use it, because as you can see, these 3 forms here are the same for io, tu, lui, lei. Now, when someone then responds by saying è vero, what's the difference between è vero and penso che? This is, it's true. I have many friends, basically, or a lot of friends. Okay. È vero is it's true. It's not I think anymore. I'm stating a fact. It's true. So if I'm just stating a fact, use the normal indicative, I'm going to call it normal, but use it the normal indicative present. Indicativo presente, what you learned on day 2 for all intents and purposes of our program here, our lesson plan. Okay? That's the difference. Simply because you're saying I think that, you need the congiuntivo. That's just the rule. Now, if you made a mistake and you didn't know the congiuntivo, you could be thinking, Tom, I've been going to Italy all this time talking this way. I've never had any issues being understood. Yeah, you're not. Because it's understandable what you're saying. You're just not speaking grammatically correct if you don't use the congiuntivo here. Do many native speakers not use the congiuntivo when they're speaking? It happens a lot. A lot of people don't use it, but it's an error. It's a mistake. It's viewed come un errore. All right, let's move on to essere. Allora, we're now going to do essere in the congiuntivo presente. Here are the forms. Io sia, we mentioned sia before. Tu sia, lui, lei, sia. Noi siamo. The noi conjugation is the same as what you're always used to. Voi siate. Loro siano. So let me use a slightly different trigger phrase, but one that still carries the same idea. I could say, credi che io sia felice? This means, do you believe that I am happy? Do you believe that I am happy? So this is someone asking you a question. Is this your belief? They use credere a lot more than we used to believe in English, very much as a synonym for pensare in everyday conversation. So you could easily put pensare in its place if you wished. So do you believe that I'm happy? So this question right here is me asking someone for their opinion, for their thought. I may know the truth, and maybe I'll share it with you. I could say, in realtà, non sono molto felice. You know, maybe something took place, you weren't happy with the results of something, maybe you lost the match, whatever it could be. So I'm saying here, in realtà. It's a way of saying actually or literally in reality. In reality, I am not. Non sono felice. I am not. It's a statement of fact. So there's using congiuntivo, indicativo. You use them just like this in normal everyday conversation. If you wanted to add something more onto the statement, you could say, però io credo che invece tu sia molto felice. Let's say, con il risultato. This now, in the same breath, I'm saying, however, I believe that invece is like saying on the other hand or instead, that you are very happy with the result. So I began my statement by saying, hey, here's the reality of the situation for me. However, I don't know the situation for you. This is what I'm thinking. So now tell me if I'm wrong. You could even say that. Dimmi cosa ne pensi. We're going to get to ne in another video, but this, actually you don't need to put an exclamation point. This means tell me what you think. Tell me what you think about it is what it literally means. This ne gets to about it. Dimmi cosa ne pensi. So tell me what you think, because I'm curious. I want to know. See how it's used? So I'm going to put a little pause on this comparing between indicativo and congiuntivo. I just want to go through some verb endings, and then we're going to wrap up the lesson. So we're entering now the second half of the lesson here. We'll do some more examples once we cover these verbs, and we're going to leave it at that. Okay? We'll leave it at that. So let's go on. Let's look at the are verb endings. Are verb endings. All right. So these are going to be a little different from what you're used to in the indicative present, but it's all good. This is a different form of Italian, a different mood. So I'm going to exemplify this with the verb parlare. Parlare is a nice regular are verb. We say io parli, tu parli, lui, lei parli. And I promise I'm not making a mistake. Because I know you're like, parli is just the tu form. In the congiuntivo, it's io, tu, and lui, lei. Noi parliamo, remember, the noi form is always the same as what you're familiar with. Voi parliate. I probably rolled my R or doubled my L a little too much there. Loro parlino. So what are our verb endings for all regular are verbs? It's going to be I. That's how we pronounce it in Italian. I for io, tu, lui, lei, or the letter I in English. We then have iamo, iate, ino. I just want to show you the ere verb endings, and then I'm going to backtrack, okay? Ere and ire, verb endings are the same. Okay, endings are the same. Okay. meaning they share the same verb endings. They're not the same as adverbs. So let's do scrivere. Okay, scrivere means to write. We're going to look at this in the congiuntivo presente here. We have io scriva, tu scriva, lui, lei scriva, noi scriviamo. Noi form is always the same. Voi scriviate. Loro scrivano. I just want to double check my notes because some of these verb endings, I don't use that commonly. So the loro and the voi form. Yeah, perfect. We got it right. Allora. Perfetto. So our verb endings are a for io, tu, lui, lei. Iamo for the noi. And the voi is iate. The loro is ano. So why did I want to jump ahead real quick? Okay, let's take a look here. Notice a particular pattern, if you will, or something that maybe will later become obvious, let's say. The io, tu, lui, lei ends in an I. The io, tu, lui, lei for an ediverb or an ediverb also ends in a or a. It's almost kind of like the adverbs and the ediverbs, along with the ediverbs, kind of swapped positions. That's my little memory aid. If I'm using io, tu, lui, lei, and I just need to think on my feet of a verb conjugation, maybe I don't use this verb that often, but I'm now using it in the congiuntivo, I just think, okay, if the verb is ade, swap places with an ida or ediverb. It's going to end in the letter I, in E. That's what works for my head, okay? Depends on you, what works for you, but that's what I do. If it's an ediverb, swap places with an adverb. That's how it works in my head. But maybe that makes sense for some of you. It may not make sense for others, but let me know what you think if you need more of an explanation. Let's do some examples in context. I had prepared a few other trigger phrases because I always use penso che. Let's use sembra che. It seems that. Okay. Oops. Let's do sembra che lui parli l'italiano. This means it seems that he speaks or he's speaking Italian. I may not be familiar with Italian. I don't know what language he's speaking. As such, I'm saying sembra che. It seems that. Trigger phrase alert, entering into uncertainty here. So our main verb needs to be in the congiuntivo. What verb tense do we need? The presente, because we're speaking in the present. In the presente. Let me show you another example. Let's use è possibile che, and let's use this ediverb we have here, scrivere. È possibile che, let's say, loro scrivino. No, ediverbs end with an A. There we go. Scrivano. See how that comes in handy? That's how my brain is working. È possibile che loro... And like I told you guys, as I told you guys before, let me double check my notes on that. I never used this form. There we go. È possibile che loro scrivano gli appunti. So, what does this mean? It is possible that they write or they are writing the notes. Maybe they're not writing them. They could be. Let's go find out. So you could say, andiamo a scoprirlo. That means, let's go find out. So it's possible that they're writing the notes. Let's go find out. I'm not sure. Non ne sono sicuro. This means I'm not sure. With the ne, I'm not sure about it. We're going to do a whole lesson on ne. I already have one on my channel, but in terms of our series, I also have videos on the congiuntivo as well, but in terms of our series, we're going to get to it. So yeah, it's possible. Let's go find out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave it here. There's a lot more we could get to. I'm just going to leave it here. We did avere, we did essere, we looked at a regular adverb, a regular ediverb, which has the same verb forms, the same verb endings as a regular ediverb. That's good for now. And we did a healthy amount of comparing to, and comparing and contrasting to, the indicativo. Why would I use congiuntivo here? Why would I use indicativo there? You know? So I hope this gives you a good taste. I think we did even more than a taste. This gives you a good bite out of the congiuntivo, a good feel for what we're going to be getting into. And yeah, I'm going to leave it there for this. If you have any questions, be sure to let me know. I've got notes up on my blog. I go over this material all the time in my live weekly group lessons. If you'd like to learn more, check out the description bar to head on over to my website. Be sure that you check out all of the past lessons we've done. That way, a lot of what we're covering today just kind of looks like a rinse and repeat, you know, just in a slightly different way from what we've always done. And be sure to stay tuned for what's to come. Always remember to spread the love, guys. I'll catch you all in the next video. Ciao, ciao.